In this video today, we'll look at different types of IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 tasks, their rubrics, and I'll show you how to paraphrase the task rubrics more effectively. We'll see some common words that often appear across many different tasks, as well as some more topic-specific useful vocabulary for these particular tasks. So today we'll begin with a table task. The first step of paraphrasing is to look for direct synonyms. Certain words appear in Academic Task 1 frequently, so make sure you prepare synonyms for these. For example, this task includes the words show, percentage, and spending. These are words that appear quite often in IELTS Academic Task 1, especially the words show and percentage. Here are the synonyms we could use for this task. Instead of table, we could write chart. For shows, we could use illustrates. Percentage can be replaced with proportion. And instead of spending, we could use expenditure, which is a more formal synonym. Next, we should look for different parts of speech which we can use. In this task, we could easily replace the adjective European with the noun Europe. We might also be able to use the verb form of change instead of the noun. It's also sometimes possible to change the voice from active to passive voice, or vice versa. In this example, it's possible to change show from the active verb to the passive voice form of the verb. In this case, we would put is shown at the end of the sentence. Finally, you will always be able to change the expression used to describe the time period. In this case, the time period is described as over a 3-year period. So we could write from 2018 to 2020, or alternatively, between 2018 and 2020. So now let's look at 3 examples of effective paraphrasing of the whole task rubric. Each one is slightly different. In the first example, we change show, percentage, spending, and European. In the second example, we change show, percentage, and the word change. Finally, in the third example, we change spending, and we switch from the active to the passive voice of show. We also describe the table as a chart in each case, as well as use different expressions for the time period. Next, let's look at an example of a line graph, beginning again with synonyms. Here we have the word shows again. We could replace this with illustrates as before, or we could use another synonym such as displays data. Rather than different, we could use various, and we can simply change usage to use, which is another noun with the same meaning. Looking at different parts of speech, we could replace the noun usage with the verb use. For voice, again, we have the option to change the noun usage. This time we can use the verb use, but in the passive form, so were used. Of course, we should always change the time period expression. So here we can use from 2007 to 2019. Looking at our examples, we can see changes to show, usage, different, the voice changes, and the time period expression changes. Now, there isn't a good alternative to the phrase internet browsers, so this remains in both examples. But otherwise, the sentences are significantly different to the original rubric, but they still keep the same meaning. So this is something to bear in mind, that you can't always change every single word or phrase. Sometimes there are phrases, in this case internet browsers, which just don't have a good synonym or good alternative. That's okay. In the rubric for this next task, which is a bar chart, the word illustrates is used. We could change this to shows, or we could use another expression such as provides information. We can use the word mean instead of average. Mean is a more scientific word but has the same meaning. Instead of number, we can use quantity. Quick test here, could we use the word amount instead of quantity in this case? Well, no, because amount is used with uncountable nouns, and here we are using it with a countable noun, tickets. Instead of sold, we could use purchased, which is a slightly different word and obviously coming from a different direction, but it works well here. It's more formal, but it's a good alternative. And we could also use entry tickets rather than just saying tickets. In this case, we could potentially use the passive form, the passive voice as well, by changing tickets sold to tickets that people buy. In terms of parts of speech, it's possible to change from tickets in a theme park to theme park tickets. In the phrase theme park tickets, theme park acts as an adjective, whereas in the original, it serves as a modifier which describes the location in the theme park. In this task rubric, we can paraphrase two parts of the time period. We have Monday to Sunday, which can be changed to the week, and 3 periods of the day can become 3 times of day or 3 parts of the day. Looking at these examples, you can see the changes with average, number, sold, theme park, and other words and phrases being changed. Next, we have pie charts. Pie charts will normally show percentages or proportions. These words are interchangeable, so whichever one you see in the task, just use the other one. In this task, we can change from percentage to proportion. We can also change the word made to carried out, which is a slightly more formal synonym in this context. The noun transportation can be changed to transport, which has the same meaning and is only slightly less formal. Modes of transport can also be called means or methods of transport. All of these essentially have the same meaning. Modes, method, means. Finally, we can change forecasted to predicted. Here, as with previous tasks, we could change shows to the passive voice. In terms of different parts of speech, we could use the noun variety instead of the adverb various. If we say shipments made by a variety of, it has a very similar meaning. We could also use the noun forecast instead of the verb forecasted. When changing the time period, we could use the noun forecast instead of the verb forecast. Here are 2 examples using different combinations of these synonyms and other changes. Instead of show, we've used provide information and illustrate. Percentages has been changed to proportions, and you can see other changes such as variety, methods, means, and predicted. Next up is a map task. So another alternative to shows is depicts. So we could change the rubric here to depicts. This word works well in this case because we have a drawing or drawings. But really you only need one synonym of show for the test, whichever task you get. So I'd recommend simply memorizing illustrate as your synonym. So if you have illustrate in the rubric, use show, and if you have show in the rubric, use illustrate. These work for really every task. In this task, the rubric uses the word occur. This can be replaced with take place or happen. You can also replace around with the area surrounding or the territory surrounding. Territory is a more formal synonym of area and works well here too. We can also use the word develop instead of change. Now, develop is a synonym of change in this case because we're talking about changing buildings and land and construction. Develop captures this meaning of constructing new buildings or changing the usage of land. Now I'll skip straight to the examples as we've seen the other changes already in previous tasks. We can see that in these examples, show has been changed to illustrate and depict. Around has been changed to the area surrounding. We used develop instead of change and used the passive voice developed. Other changes to the original rubric include using the word territory to describe the area around the school, and of course we changed the expression for the time period. Our final task type today is a process diagram. In this task rubric we have a few words which have synonyms. We can change involved to used. Producing, which is a gerund, can be replaced with another gerund, generating, or we could use the noun production. A good synonym of electricity is power, and we could also say electrical energy. Jumping again to the examples, we can see how the rubric has been effectively paraphrased with various changes. Show has been replaced with illustrates again. We could also use depicts here because we are talking about a drawing of the process. We've replaced producing with generating in one example and changed the part of speech to a verb with produce in the second example. Also, instead of using stages and equipment at the beginning of the sentence, as in the rubric, we've moved it to the end of the sentence in the first example and removed it completely in the second example, and simply used system to capture the same idea. As you can see, certain words appear very often in these tasks and have direct synonyms. We saw several of these keywords today, such as show and illustrate, different and various, number and quantity, percentage and proportion, spending and expenditure, buy and purchase, forecast and predict, and average and mean. Other times the synonyms you choose must depend on the particular task. This is obviously more tricky, and we saw this in our examples where we changed change to develop in the context of constructing new buildings or changing land. We changed produce to generate in the context of producing or generating electricity, and make became carry out in the context of carrying out a process. So paraphrasing is such an important part of IELTS writing. You really should practice it a lot before the test. Thank you very much and best of luck with the test. Bye.